someone who's done a comprehensive approach. You heard a lot about this from Dr. Shepke today, but someone who's already been doing a lot of this and doing a multiple faceted approach has been Dr. Miramontes. And so I think that involving his EMS crews to be part of the solution to this problem that the deaths we see has been an important aspect of things. So I've asked him to please say, hey, what are you guys doing to have harm reduction in your community? Okay, so with that, Dr. Miramontes.
All right, speaking of Dr. Shepke, since he's not here, I'm going to just say I ripped off his stuff, okay? That's all there is to it. But the twist is that Shepke had a place he could send his patients to by ambulance. I did not. No one in my town had stepped up of doing harm reduction, and so we started our own program. So if it's not there, we just did it. I have no financial conflicts of interest yet because I'm a government employee. They won't pay me anything. And so the other thing that you need to know is, so Texans, this is how we view the map of the United States, right? It's all about Texas. And what you need to know what's different about Texas and why we can innovate is because we don't have any rules. There is no state medical director. There's no state scope of practice. There's no state protocols. There is nothing like that. It is truly the wild, wild west for EMS. And it's all based on the physician. So my paramedics don't practice paramedicine. They practice medicine. They actually practice medicine literally on the Texas Medical Board under my license. So that's why we can do a bunch of weird and wacko things and we don't get in trouble. Well, at least not yet. So the fire, I worked at San Antonio Fire Department, you heard about it a couple times. We're a busy EMS department that does fire. Yes, I said that, right? The fire guys that are twitching. We do like 1 or 2 structure fires a day, right? Out of 600 calls a day, okay? So it's all about the EMS, and we're a pretty busy place. So we do 10 overdoses a day. A day. No, the cocaine's not there, sorry. So, and the problem is that people are dying, and they're dying even more and more and more. The cartels are excellent business people. Yes, they are men and women. They're very close to my city, actually. And they are flooding us with fentanyl because they don't have to grow poppy, they don't have to harvest it, they don't have to process it, and the pop and heroin is not as potent. So now they can get the chemical precursors from China, India, or wherever, and they can bring it in big cargo ships, in these cargo containers, and they can make fentanyl de novo without having to do any agriculture. So that has rapidly increased our deaths. So this is your brain. And this is your brain on drugs, right? You've heard this before. So this massive outflow of an upregulation that occurs increases this dopamine reward system that makes you more apt to want to do this again and again and again. And fentanyl actually has a short acting, a little bit less short. It's short acting, so you have to use more often. So that's another problem that actually accentuates this loop cycle. And this dopamine reward system is what is blunting the emotional pain. The majority of folks that use drugs, okay, people use drugs, that's the new politically correct term, they're using this to self-medicate, usually a behavioral health issue. They're blunting the pain, they have had childhood trauma or whatever, and that's why they're doing it. They're doing it for this cingulate cortex, and then as the dopamine-induced reward system is activated as well. Next. So let's talk about, we'll just stop using drugs. Well, that's stupid, okay? Because it doesn't work. So here is traditional 12-step abstinence-only drug treatment, inpatient treatment, residential treatment. And look here, look how many people remain in treatment after 2 months, like Zippo, and their mortality is huge, as opposed to being on buprenorphine or methadone, where they stabilize. And as Dr. Shepke said earlier this morning, this is just like diabetes. You don't tell someone, well, just stop eating, right? Well, that's not going to work, right? So you have to get these folks on med to help change that brain chemistry. Now, can you wean people off buprenorphine? Maybe. It depends. It depends if they're able to deal with their behavioral health issues, if they have stable housing. Do they have a positive environment to stay in? Are they stabilized? Have they addressed the issues that got them using drugs in the first place? And the question is, probably they're going to be on something for life, whether it be buprenorphine, methadone, or another drug to help us with this process. So what is harm reduction? One of my friends that I met along the way told me this. He said, if you can't help someone if they're dead, this is what one of my peer counselors said. And that stuck with me. So we are trying to save lives in order that eventually we can help them. Now, are they going to come on board with recovery in the first time we see them? Probably not. It might take 10, 12, 14 visits before we can get them bought into the advantages of being in recovery. So what does harm reduction do? It prevents deaths. Okay, so we do harm reduction with a number of things I'm going to talk about. It decreases infections from IV drug abuse. Okay, it promotes a healthier pregnancy. So if we can get you on methadone or bup on a constant dose all through pregnancy, your baby will do better and you will do better. Yes. Will they have neonatal abstinence syndrome? Yes. Will it be as bad as if you were bolusing yourself with heroin 3 times a day? No. So it will help. It also proves the Child Protective Services or the legal system that you're committed to recovery and helping your baby get better. So it helps with that. This is the one for my chief. It cuts down on 911 calls. Harm reduction. So if we didn't do harm reduction, we'd probably doing 15, 20 overdoses a day. So this decreases our number of calls and makes us more operationally efficient. And it also lowers the HIV and hepatitis C in your community. It is a crime reduction act. Why do you think heroin methadone clinics are out there? It reduces crime significantly, because if you don't have to pimp, steal, bribe, deal, or whatever to get money to buy drugs, then you're not doing those crimes. And so now you get your stable dose every morning and you don't have to do those activities. And because you don't have to do those activities, you can do things to better yourself, like go to counseling, like go to school, like get your GED. So now, because you don't have to do all that, and you stay out of jail, that's obviously a big plus as well. And then we get you, because you're in drug treatment, we get you access to primary care. We're going to screen you for syphilis, like Shepke was talking about, hepatitis A, hepatitis B, hepatitis C. You're going to get screened for HIV. We'll get you on HIV meds. Oh, you have hepatitis C? Oh, we got a drug for that, right? We can do all that stuff. And then we can return them to work or school, hopefully, to become productive members of society. So that's what harm reduction does. And then we have this whole thing about tranq, xylazine. Xylazine is a veterinary anesthetic, and the cartels have been mixing it in, especially as it makes its way east, okay? So I'm a first cut city. The fentanyl that comes across the border in my world is good, okay? It is excellent fentanyl or heroin. But by the time it makes its way up to Chicago, across the Midwest, and out on the East Coast, it's mixed and mixed and mixed. And then they start adding this stuff to it. This is a veterinary anesthetic. It's available on the market, and they mix this in. It's kind of like Precedex, one of the sedation medicines we use in the ICU. And the thing is that Narcan doesn't touch it. So you give them 2, 4, 6 of Narcan, and they're still sleepy. They might be breathing, but they're still sleepy or unconscious. You got tranq. That's what it is. And the problem with this is that if it gets outside the skin, outside the vessel into the skin, it causes that horrible necrosis that I showed you on the previous picture. So this stuff is bad news. And actually, we're seeing terrible withdrawals from tranq itself. So what do? We worked with our village. The School of Nursing got a bunch of money from the state and feds to do a narcotic intervention. And so the School of Nursing said, where are all these overdose patients? I went, I know where they are. And I got the people to take care of it. She said, great, let me give you some money. And we said, okay. So we partnered up with our mental health authority, with the fire department, with our drug abuse and awareness council, and our partners at New Seasons, which is one of our drug treatment centers. And what we did is we used that grant money. We have an administrative team leader. It's an operational fire engineer, paramedic. We use our existing medical directors, which the fire department already pays for. And then we use overtime medics. And when we built our grant, this is important for you chiefs out there. When you build a grant, do it at lieutenant's pay on overtime. and you include everything you're going to need to do the mission, the car, the radio, the stuff, the monitor, the bags, the MDT, everything you put in the grant. You're going to give the grant people sticker shock, but that's how you're going to be able to sustain this over time, because the biggest upfront cost, of course, is that capital stuff, okay? And then we use overtime folks in our teams to go out and do intervention. How do we do that? Well, we put them in these little dorky Tinker Toy cars are what we bought. We now use Tahoes, but initially we were budget strapped, so we bought Tinker Toy cars, Matchbox cars, and we have everything that's in a normal ambulance in the vehicle. And that's important. So the nursing school said, oh, all you need is a blood pressure cuff and a stethoscope and a pulse ox thing, and you'll be fine. And we went, no. You don't get where we work, right? And so that's why we have everything, because you don't know if you're going to walk in and they're already overdosed, or Abuela Gonzalez, who's in the couch, is having an MI when you walk in. So you have to be ready to go. So that's why we did all of the equipment. And then what we use is First Watch to look at our runs to look for overdose. We keyword out on the disposition and the narrative. We find the overdoses. I blanked out the addresses. And then we get our hit list for the day, and the boys and girls go out and hit the streets and try and find these folks and intervene. And by the way, these people who are doing this are not just paramedics. We actually have some EMTs. They're from arson. They're from dispatch. They're from engines, from ladders. They're from all over our department. And so they get a little extra overtime to do something different. And actually this has been, we didn't think we'd get enough people to do this, but they clamor for this overtime because it's something different. They like giving back to the community, and it's become a real positive experience for them. And then so what we do is if we find them, we refer to counseling. We have peer coaches. That's really important. You have to hook them up with somebody who's had lived experience. That's the PC way if they were a drug addict some time ago. So those with lived experience have lived that life of that cycle of addiction. They know the issues. They know baloney when they see it, for example, and they're able to help navigate these people into care. And then we provide everyone with a Tony kit, and I'll show you what that is. This is a Tony kit. This is what we call our Narcan kit. So it has gloves, it has CPR instructions, that has how to use the device in 2 boxes of Narcan. And it has a card in there. You ready for this? If you use this, you can go to morenarcanplease.com and you can get more Narcan sent to your house, okay? Free of charge. This was done by the grant. And then if you want recovery, here we go. Here's all the numbers. So we hand these not usually to the person who uses drugs, but to their family or friends, okay? What's the 3 most frequent issues for overdose, or situations that makes a patient more at risk for overdose? What are the 3 situations? Get out of jail, get out of the hospital, new dealer. Because in all 3 of those circumstances, either your tolerance is down or your drug dose is too much. And so what we do with them is to try and mitigate that with these kits. And we train the family and friends, anybody we can teach how to use these kits. So let's talk about Suboxone a little bit, or what we use for treatment. So here's regular old methadone. So methadone is strictly regulated. It can only be given at federally qualified centers. You have to go every day and get your dose. It is because it is a Schedule II narcotic. And so what that is a direct agonist. We're just replacing boluses of fentanyl 4 times a day with 1 liquid dose of methadone in the morning. And that stabilizes your addiction issues. It has a full agonist effect, and you won't go into withdrawals, and you don't have to worry about using. This has been a very effective tool since the 60s, we've been doing this to decrease drug abuse, decrease crime, decrease the diseases associated with IV drug abuse. And we have people that may be on this for a lifetime. And then we have the blockers, like naltrexone, otherwise known as Withdrawal. This is a blocker. So even if you use, it don't work, right? So this is also used for alcohol dependence as well. Decreases cravings. It does prevent overdose because you can give it a single monthly injection, and this will prevent use as well. But a lot of patients don't like this because you may get cravings. But there are some people, like the people in this room, that drive commercial vehicles, that have a public safety or position of trust, and they can't be on these kind of drugs, these mind-altering meds. So naltrexone may be their only answer. And then there's buprenorphine. Buprenorphine goes into the lock and turns it halfway. So you're not in withdrawals, you get a little bit of pain relief, and you get some of the other effects of Suboxone, such like the antidepressant effect that goes along with it in the brain receptor. And it's long-acting, once-a-day dosing, comes as a sublingual strip or oral dissolving tablet. So this is what it looks like. This is a Schedule 2 or Schedule 3 narcotic, just like a lot of like Versed that we have on our box. So we keep it under lock and key. And this is what it's like a Listerine mouthwash strip. You just put it underneath the tongue. You can't swallow buprenorphine. It won't work. It has to be absorbed in the buccal surface. So they're either oral disabling tablets or the film. And we do a COW score. So this is like the Glasgow Coma Scale for opioid withdrawal. What you do is you quickly count up their number, and if they're over, based on their symptoms they're having, and then if they're over 5, we consider giving you the medication. So this is our team. This provides great relief as a bridge to care. We have medical director consult. That's usually me. In fact, I'm surprised my phone hasn't gone off while I'm here. And then we get them navigated to an outpatient program for 90 days, free at no cost. That was part of the grant. And what's nice about Suboxone, unlike methadone, if you take your methadone dose and then go score some dope and shoot, or take a Percocet or 2, you can overdose. But with bupe, you can't. It binds those receptors and actually makes you resistant to overdose. And because it has a ceiling effect, you can't overdose. I am extremely aggressive with buprenorphine. In the hospital where I work, they say, oh, give 4 milligrams and wait an hour and see how they're doing, and then do another. Yeah, I ain't got time for that, as the meme says. I go 16, 24, 36, and I know that that's safe because of the ceiling effect. So here's what we do. We get their COW score, we do an assessment, make sure they don't have any contraindications. We give them Zofran, we give them Benadryl, we give them Imodium, we give them Tylenol if they're having pain, and then we do bupe. 16, 24, 36. Don't goof around. Usually we start with 16, and that's all they need. If their COW score still high after that, we can give them another 8. And then if they've used within the last 24 hours, we can't use buprenorphine because they'll kick off all their narcotic receptors and they'll actually go into withdrawals. That's called precipitate withdrawals. So what we do instead is we cheat. We use clonidine, which is a weak alpha agent. So you're saying, wait a minute, that's not a narcotic. Well, it's a blood pressure medication with a narcotic in disguise. So clonidine does hit the mu receptor and does turn off the withdrawal symptoms. Very effective to use, and it's unscheduled. So I can hand it out, right? So that's another way we can get them. And then we'll see them the next day if they haven't used, and we'll start them on bupe. Contraindications, most of these are relative. I do treat pregnant people. I do treat people with some long-actings if we wash them out. And we have to make sure that they're safe to start this process and don't need medical care. That's why our paramedics do a good head-to-toe assessment, vital signs and such. So another way you can do this, and this study is from New Jersey, the Carroll study. We haven't done this yet, but we're fixing to because I'm trying to get more capacity. So here you go, you overdose. So you take the drug and your brain says, oh, I'm going to stop breathing now. And we give them Narcan, right? So what happens? All those receptors were right down here, right? So now what happens is now you're in full-blown withdrawals after giving that Narcan. You guys have done this, right? You blast them with 2, 4, or 6, and then they're miserable. Where are they going? They're running to the bathroom. Why? Because they're going to be pooping their brains out and puking their brains out at the same time, right? They got the bucket in front and they're just miserable. And they're sweating and they're agitated and they're pissed off and they're absolutely miserable. No, you ding-dongs, you didn't ruin their high. You made them sick with Narcan and put them in precipitated withdrawal. So why wouldn't you fix them before you leave? Oh, you can. So what you can do is give them some bupe. And then the buprenorphine will come up here, they'll go out of withdrawals, and it has a ceiling effect, so they won't overdose again. In fact, if they try and use more med tonight or tomorrow morning, it's not going to work because the bupe's in all their receptors. And now they're comfortable. So now you've made them sick, but now you've made them better. And now you've given them a taste of what buprenorphine is, so if they want to go in recovery, they've already had a positive effect because you've now taken them from sick to better. And this is the study that these guys did in New Jersey. Very effective, and the results were amazing. So very safe, no precipitated withdrawals, and 42% showed up for an outpatient appointment. This is absolutely not reproducible in the real world. I don't know how they did this. This is amazing. The next day they showed up to one of the clinics to get started on bupe. Okay? So this is our New Jersey study. So what we do? So for our, this is our MAT team, our medication-assisted treatment team. Out of last year in 22, we saw 861 patients with 1,800 contacts. Notice you have to see them a couple times, right? Oh man, I can't do it because I used like 2 hours ago. You were late, right? All right, we'll try again tomorrow. So here's some clonidine for tonight. Please don't use. We'll see you in the morning. We just started on Suboxone, okay? And then we were able to get 203 people into recovery. So that's pretty good. That's 203 people that are not dead, okay? Not dead's good. And all of these people also got a Tony kit. They got harm reduction. They got all the details and education for their family to try and keep them alive while they're just figuring out if they want to go into recovery. And so that's basically our data that we just talked about. And then for our TTOR project, that's the initial outreach where we do all the Narcan training. We saw 842 different patients, and we were able to get 112 of these folks into referral as an outpatient. We didn't do induction on the spot, but they were able to go into treatment. And as we see them, so if they come in on a Friday, we're going to have to treat them Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and if it's a holiday, Monday too, right? Because the drug treatment centers don't do intakes on weekends or nights. And so unlike Shepke's system where he takes them to a specific ER, which is brilliant, we are able to get their CAL score down to almost normal where they're not even in withdrawals by the second day, okay? So these are overdoses. These are the people we see. Look what happened during COVID. When everything hit, we had all these guys, all the overtime was directed toward testing, vaccines, monoclonals. And so we didn't get to see people during those months. But we still have a ways to go to reach the people that overdosed to try and get them into care. And a lot of them disappear in the wind, obviously, because they may be homeless or transient or whatever. All right, and then I have the references. So if you want to hit me up about this, hit this QR code. That's my contact card. That's really my email address and all that stuff. And you can email me and I'll send you a little Dropbox link that's got all the stuff if you're interested in doing this. This is a very safe and effective community harm reduction model. And yes, paramedics can do it. No, you don't need a grant. Your online crews can do it. If they wake them up with Narcan, you can give them bupe, and then someone can follow up on the next day. And if you need money, I'll call Shepke. I'm sure he's got something under his hat there that can help you out with this. Okay? And just do good work. You can't help somebody if they're dead. So let's keep people not dead.